And so it begins. Another salmon season has started. Actually, finally, it's been a hot, dry summer. Very hot, dry summer. In fact, it's enough that the legacy of this dry summer is going to carry on for a while into this fall. So, to start right out with, what you're going to be seeing a lot of this year is water flows at 185, which is summer minimum, below the fall minimum. Today we're supposed to be seeing 750 water going to our 335 minimum fall water flow. We're not going to see it. We do not have the water floor. We're going to be fishing low water conditions 185. Now, don't panic. 185 is... Well, sorry about this. Here we go. As I always say, conditions can and do change quickly, and over the last 3 days while I was on the river, that's a classic example. So instead of being down on the river under a nice shade tree with the river next to me giving my report, I'm sitting in an access point on the back of my truck like I always seem to do. Kind of doing an update on what's happened, because over the last couple of days from when I shot the thing and now getting it ready, a lot of things have happened, which is highly unusual for the Labor Day weekend quote unquote water release, which we didn't have. So let me just kind of run down and give the update to the update. So obviously we're at the minimum flow, summer minimum flow 185. We're not going to see any water flows increase for the foreseeable future because we're just so dry. And just because we get an inch of rain, folks, remember, that's not going to do anything. We need inches, like 4 to 6 inches in an event, aka hurricane rains, or we need to have a really gnarly cold front park on us and just open up the lake effect rains. So we need some significant, prolonged, heavy wet to get the ground saturated, get the reservoir filled up, and give us a release so we can come up at least to the 285, some winter minimum, or 350, our normal minimum for this time of the year. So it's not in the forecast for foreseeable future, so we're going to have to make do with the low water conditions, which means the fisher, generally what that tradition has done is held the fish off, but it hasn't for us this time. So to say that, somebody says, well, how's the fishing? I say very good, considering. Note the word considering. We're getting tiny little handfuls of fish coming to the bottom of the river, anywhere from maybe 3 or 4 to a couple hundred. That is very good for this time of the year. Everybody says, hey, Labor Day weekend release, what do you expect for a run? Somewhere between 20 fish and 2,000, more towards 20. Well, we're actually getting nice little handfuls of fish squirting through on a pretty consistent basis. And the rumor mill from the boat guys, first thing early in the morning, there's fish relatively close to the river mouth. So we actually might have some tiny little pods of fish staging wanting to come up. There's some tiny little pods of fish hanging in the estuary. I went up to the estuary this previously Labor Day Monday, and there was a fish here rolling, which was really good to see. It didn't mean there's lots of fish. There was a small handful of fish. So we are off to a very good start. Now, what does this say going forward into next weekend? I don't know. It's early. We're still just getting rolling. So all that being said, obviously, as most of you know, I kind of haunt the Douglas and Salmon Run this time of year, where we kind of get first crack at the fish, and the fish are all the little pulses are all still kind of balled up. However, the reports coming from, let's say, the ballpark area, the fishing there has been surprisingly well for this time of the year. Guys are getting consistent action and getting some fairly numerous hookups and some fish coming out of there. I don't suspect the fish are much further than maybe sportsmen's right now. Obviously, there'll be a salmon to make a liar out of maybe further up, but understand, with the 185 water flow, salmon move very slowly through the system. So what might take them 2 or 3 days right now, it's going to take them 4 to 5 days to get through. So the Chinooks are going to be moving very slow. Just to keep that in mind. Plus, with the lower water flows, you're going to be fishing more pocket water. So all those little pocket waters with some current over the top to give us sealing, they're going to like that. A lot of our deeper pools where we normally traditionally fish for them. Man, the sun's beating me up. Just happened to do reports in the afternoon in the back of your truck. But anyways, those water pools, you'll see them in there. They'll be suspended, but you also, if you can watch them, they're going to be doing a lot of rolling, jumping, moving. They're just not happy or comfortable there. So they're not in a good bitey mood. But if you get up in that pocket water where the water's a little fast, they got a little bit overhead, you find those little bathtub sized little buckets. Those fish will drop in there. Now the water's maybe 2-3 feet deep with some overcurrent. That's where they're going to hang out, and at least that's where your biters are going to be. So we want to focus on that type of water. That's probably why, like, the pocket water going through ballpark has been so productive. That's just above town. The water just below town is still very productive. You guys are off the DSR. Obviously, the Douglaston, it's the same rules. We're finding a bunch of fish. We are finding fish in the deeper pools in the heads where we got current over the top of them. It gives them that security. The pocket water fishing has been working until like it's on the water. Then those fish are scooting. So it's definitely a morning fish, not just because of water temperature, but because of light. We've had some very cool nights. In fact, one morning I got up, I think it was Saturday morning, the Labor Day weekend Saturday. It was 45 degrees in Altmar. That's just ejecting heat out of the system. So that's fantastic. So we've had some good water temperatures. Now going into this week, it's going to get a little bit warm, and we'll have to see how it goes on for the next week. But it looks like we're not going to have the terribly hot weather. We're going to have good, cool, solid nights. So your first light to midday fishing is going to be your best. Now I'm just getting started, and I'm trying to figure out what the flies are. And mostly what I've gotten my bites on has been the standard black, so we call Raider Barters, and an olive. And depending on the water I'm in, it's either I've been running a size 4 or a size 6. The size 4 with a little cone on it and a 10-12 foot fluorocarbon leader is all the weight I need in some places. That's why I think the 4 work good. I didn't have to put any weight in. I can just use a scanty line off my switch rod, a 12-foot leader, and 10-pound tippet, and I can just mend and walk that fly. I could sink in there and swing through that really good. Sometimes I might have to drop down to a 6 because that fly's just too heavy. Sometimes in the deeper runs I had to add on a BB splash shot or 2 about 36 inches up, and that's all I need. Some of the other bigger pools, if you don't want to run that, you put on like a 3/9 or a 5-second poly sink tip. That'll work just fine with about a 5-foot leader. You're going to be able to cover a lot of that water there where if the current is good, you can swing through that. That's going to work really good. We've had a little jag of coho show up, which has been really interesting. And they got one to eat a pink and purple zonker. That was really cool. Didn't stay on long. And so yeah, there's actually a little bit of jag there. I heard a couple rumors, a couple steelhead. There's been a couple confirmed reports of a couple of Atlantic salmon showing up. So it's been a nice potpourri of fish. But most importantly, it's been pretty consistent. And it's been pretty consistent since the middle of last week. So the fish have been kind of jagging through. So going into this week, I suspect it's the same thing happening. I know the Douglaston they had last week, they had the lower end closed. Just be mindful. I think they're going to have for a couple of days the lower end still is going to be closed, like from spring hole down. And that's just because they're finishing up some river restoration work, and they should be done in a couple of days. So that's going to be short term, and all that work will be done. So that's what's going on the Douglaston. It's definitely for morning. It's a morning gig. It's a morning gig through the entire river. I haven't fished upriver in the upper fly zone yet, so I don't think any Chinooks in there. But folks, also be noted, and I'll mention this a couple of times going forward. On drought years, low water years like this, in the past, the department has delayed the opening of the lower fly zone. Traditionally, the lower fly zone opens around the 15th, 16th of September. Check on that before you go to fish it, because that might still be closed. Sometimes you got to keep that closed to help the fish, as I always say, make the right hand turn into the hatchery water. So you usually have to keep that closed till the water comes up, or they get the fish they need for propagation in the hatchery. You're going to want to pay attention to that this year, and just something to keep in mind if you go up to fish the upper river in the middle of September to see if the lower is open or not. the upper fly zone is open, so that won't be a problem up there. The other thing is like I said, you're going to want to stand back, and one of the problems with low water, everybody wades out in the middle of the river. In low water, you need to be backing up off way here. Make a long cast of those fish. Cause you eat that skinny water, you're going to be just sky towering over the top of them, and that's going to make them very nervous and a little bit spooky. But if you can back off and make a long cast and drift a swing that fly into them, that's going to definitely help with your bites. So that's another little tip with low water, is back off. You know, even though you can walk across and walk anywhere you want, where those fish are going to be, they're going to be concentrated in the tight little travel quarters, and you're going to need to stay way back, keep your buddies way back, make a long cast, drift into that, and that'll help those fish move in, and your movement and your fishing is not going to disturb them because they're going to be out of their sight because you're further away from them. So that's something to keep in mind. That because we got blue skies, low clear water, we're going to be very obvious to the fish, and our movements can be very obvious to the fish. So that's something you can be mindful about when you're fishing in these low water conditions. But anyways, that's what's going on. That's pretty much as of now, at this moment, of shooting this and putting this up. Like I said, conditions can and do change quickly, which happened to me preparing this report. A couple of real notes: I have a guide available for weekends, so if you're going to come up and fish the weekend, Hunter's available, and he can take care of you. He's a fine young man, and he's quite skilled, and you'd have a great time on the water with him. So I do have a guide available for the weekends. Also, if, hit that little bell icon, and that'll let us know when we get the new ones up. Obviously subscribe, because they're going to be, the reports are going to be coming quite regularly. I'm actually working on a tip video right now for low water fishing conditions. So if you hit that little subscribe button and that bell icon, you know when that tip video comes up, and that'll be very helpful. If you have any questions about fishing low water, put them down in the comment, and I'll try to answer them, or I might even use it in a video, because I'm always looking for video suggestions. And once again, met a couple people that were watching the videos when I was on the river. They stopped and say hello. It was good to meet you. I'm always happy to visit with the folks that watch my YouTube channel. Anyways, it has begun. See you on the river. This is Jay at JPEG Guides and Lost River Fishing. We are a year-round fly fishing catch and release guide service. We fish the Lake Ontario tributaries, and then during the spring and the summer we also fish the inland trout streams, classic dry fly fishing. During the heat of the summer, we will do the warm water fishing for bass and pike. If you're interested in any of our outings or have any questions, please feel free to email us at fish@lostriversfishing.com. Hope to hear from you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.